Hello and welcome. Welcome to our webinar about Brunel Medical School. We are going to be running through this brief agenda. So we'll give you a brief overview of Brunel University London, if you're not too familiar with us. And then I'll be handing over to different colleagues who will talk you through the key features of Brunel Medical School. Very importantly, going through admissions for our medical programme, support for students, and then we'll leave plenty of time for questions. So you can put your questions, you put them in as we go in the Q&A, and we will then read them out and answer as many as we can at the end. So first off, about Brunel, really briefly, if you're not familiar with us. We've been around a little while. We were established in the 60s, and we're one of 6 technology universities that were created with a different purpose. It wasn't just about giving students theoretical knowledge, really importantly, giving them the skills that they need. And we did that through creating the sandwich years. We were one of the very first, if not the first, to create the sandwich year placements. And that has really given our students a real head start in graduating. And we're really proud to say that the median salary of our graduates 3 years after graduating is 11% higher than the sector average through the LEO data run by the Department for Education. And it has been for the last 8 years. It's been significantly higher than the national average. So the way in which we're teaching in a very practical way with lots of placements is really giving our students a head start. And very pleased to say that we're ranked 38th in the UK in the 2025 QS World University Rankings, which is out of 1,500 institutions globally. So we're really proud of that. Brunel University is split into 3 flagship colleges. So we've got the College of Business, Arts and Social Sciences, College of Engineering, Design and Physical Sciences, and then College of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences, which is where our medical school sits. And our medical school is quite new, so we're at the forefront of the government's plans of expanding training for UK medics. Brunel is one of 5 universities in the country that have been offered an allocation of spaces for new home students, and we'll begin training them from this September. So it's very exciting for Brunel, having only launched our new medical school 2 years ago, and at the time solely to international students, as we were required to do. And this September we could take our first home students, which is very exciting. So that's all from me, just a brief overview of Brunel, and I'm going to hand over to Chris, who will tell you more about Brunel's medical school.
Thanks, Caroline. Hello and a very warm welcome from me. Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Chris Holloway from Brunel, and one of my main responsibilities is the recruitment of medicine students for the MBBS programme at Brunel Medical School. So I'll give you a short but engaging, hopefully, talk, 5-10 minutes about all the key features of the MBBS programme at Brunel. So yeah, jumping onto the course itself. As Caroline said, we're a new medical school. We can't say brand new anymore. But when I say new, we welcomed our 2nd cohort of over 100 international students last September, and we welcome 50 UK students on top of another 100 international students this September. So yeah, we're new, but within a very well-established College of Health, Medicine and Life Sciences that I'll talk more about in a minute. So at Brunel, we offer the standard 5-year MBBS, which is a primary medical qualification, otherwise known as a PMQ, and it's recognised around the world. So students can either practice medicine in the UK, or if they want to go overseas, they can do that following graduation. So following graduation, students can go on to do their UK Foundation programme, otherwise known as FY1. And this is essentially a 2-year postgraduate training programme you do after the MBBS. And here students essentially become a paid junior doctor working for the NHS. And all UK medical schools, it's important to note, so not just Brunel, will prepare students for medical licensing assessment. So this is an exam that all students must take whilst on the course in order to graduate. So our curriculum that we've built help students to do very well in this exam. Next slide, please, Caroline. So this is what our first two medicine cohorts look like in terms of where our students have come from around the world. Very diverse, as you can see, from over 50 different countries listed on the left, but predominantly from the UAE, Middle East, Hong Kong, India, Australia, and Canada. But of course, the next cohort will look a little bit different with the introduction of the 50 UK students on top of that. So I just wanted to share with you that, studying medicine, it's not all hard work at Brunel, but I think it's important to note for the students that studying medicine, it's one of the most intensive courses to study subjects, along with, I think, dentistry and veterinary science are the top three in terms of how hard it is. But at Brunel, there's plenty of time to get involved with many societies around the university, but also societies within the medical school itself. Many of our students belong to MedSoc, otherwise known as Medicine Society, and this is where the students on their own organise various events and activities throughout the year. The top middle photo was taken at the London Anatomy Cup, where all the London medical schools compete and test their anatomy skills against one another, and I believe Brunel did very well this year. And the video at the bottom actually was taken at our Inter-House Summer Sports Day. We had our first a couple of years ago, and we've just finished the one for this summer. And this is where the medicine houses compete against each other. So yeah, hard work, but a lot of fun to be had. So if you haven't been to our campus before, this is what it looks like. Also behind me here, this is our large one-site campus. So everything all in one place, including teaching facilities and student accommodation. And no other London medical school can offer anything like this in terms of the campus that we have for students here at Brunel. The medical school is just there in the sort of centre right. It's in our Quad North building in the heart of the campus, which has new facilities in which I'll cover in a minute. And just around the corner, so it's not actually on campus, just off campus, about 10-minute walk away, is Hillingdon Hospital. And this is our key partner hospital, where students will be doing a lot of their training in years 3, 4, and 5. So I just want to touch on the key features of the MBBS and what makes us attractive. So we've been told by our students. I think we've covered the top two already. But just to note, Brunel has a growing reputation in the college for offering other high quality health and science courses, such as physiotherapy, occupational therapy, biomedical sciences, life sciences, and now nursing, for example. And the new medical school therefore strengthens Brunel's health and science portfolio even further. So yeah, as I mentioned, being a new medical school means we have brand new state-of-the-art clinical teaching facilities. If you're interested further on our facilities webpage, please visit the BMS virtual tour and have a look around for yourself. But what we have got on offer is our 2 simulated hospital wards, a large anatomy centre, which is arguably the highlight of the school, 2 clinical skills labs, 18 comms skills rooms. This is where we prepare students for clinical placements, a social space just for medical students, which is quite unique, and a student support and wellbeing office actually located in the medical school, which we'll talk more about in a minute as well. One thing I do want to speak about a little bit is team-based learning. So we are one of the few medical schools in the world to use TBL, team-based learning, as our main method of teaching. So this is an alternative to lectures and seminars. So yeah, no more falling asleep in the back of lectures because there aren't any. And TBL has proven to be a very exciting and engaging way to learn with high levels of information retention. And throughout the course, students learning small groups of 6, facilitated by our clinicians and the academics in a large dedicated teaching space for TBL that fits about just over 100 students in. It's a very modern way, an innovative way of teaching, now very popular in the UK, US, and Singapore. We'll cover clinical placement shortly because that's a core aspect of studying medicine, of course. And then to mention that our fantastic and unrivaled student support service we have in the medical school, along with all the wider university student support services available. And next slide, please. So yeah, I do want to mention clinical placements because they start from year 1 and end in year 5. So students will be doing clinical placements right the way through the course. Unique to Brunel, students will be meeting patients right from the start of the MBBS, much earlier than most other medical schools. I think UCL students actually don't meet patients to year three. Ours is term 1, year 1. And the clinical placements in the hospitals are located in the surrounding area, which we'll have a look at in a minute, of Greater London and the southeast of England, and local to Brunel, of course. But what this means in terms of our location is that students have access to a very wide and diverse patient population, more so than sort of a lot of other areas in the UK. So students will be on rotation, working in hospitals, community health centres, and specialist areas such as emergency medicine. Next slide. So yeah, if you are interested, these are our locations of the partner hospitals. I won't go through all those in detail because it'll take a while, but all are less than around sort of between 1 to 2 hours away. Some obviously a lot closer. If you want a more in-depth look at this, we have an interactive map on the clinical placement section of the website, and you can have a look at all the hospitals in more detail and what they offer and distances. But here are some of Europe's leading hospitals and centres that you can see that students will be training and working in years 3, 4 and 5. So I hope that's given you sort of a short overview of the medical school and all its key features and selling points. And any questions, please just let me know.
Hello everybody, I am Claire and I am the Senior Admissions and Selections Officer at the medical school here at Brunel. So I'll start off by giving you our sort of standard minimum entry requirements and criteria. This will be for September 2025 start. So generally, we require students to be 18 by the time they register. This is really important and has caught a few people out, so it's something to keep in mind. This is due to the fact that we start placements very early, as Chris said. So it's important to note this. And we need a personal statement. I'll go into a little bit more detail about that, and an academic reference. Again, I'll let you know a bit more about that in a minute. Okay, so here are our 2025 entry criteria. We'll start with the A levels. So this year we're changing very slightly. You'll be pleased to know. So we have gone now to AAA as our requirement. So this will mean applicants will need to be predicted AAA in order to meet it. So we want those A's in chemistry or biology, a second science, and then the third can be in anything, except general studies. That's important to note. Something else important to note is that an A star won't increase a B. That's just something to keep in mind. That is part of the sort of general admissions process, but not for the medical school. So we do want 3 A's. In terms of GCSEs, we will look at those as well. So we'd like 5 GCSEs at grade B or 6 or above, at least a grade 4 in English language, or a sort of IELTS English language qualification equivalent, and at least a grade B5 in maths. That's the academics. The important thing that comes after that is the UCAT or GAMSAT test. Now, I imagine the majority will be looking after people that will be applying to take their UCAT. We don't have a cutoff score, so I'll go into a little bit more detail, but that's always a question I'm asked by everybody. Do you have a cutoff score? No, you don't. However, we do use it to rank applicants for interview. So the higher the UCAT score, the more chance or the more likely it will be that you'll be interviewed. The one thing to note, we do reject those that receive a band 4 in their situational judgment test. So that's just something to keep in mind. All right. So personal statements. I get asked a lot about this at open days, and I'm often asked to read people's personal statements. And while it is important, I did want to say that less and less emphasis is being placed on this now by admissions teams and medical schools. I think this is perhaps because of ChatGPT and the fact that we can't always trust that an applicant has written the statement themselves. However, our central admissions team do want to see one. It's a UCAS requirement. So the things I would say to include at least will be why you want to be a doctor, what inspired you, what qualities do good doctors have. So could be anything: caring, empathy, dedication, enthusiasm, any of those kinds of things. And then how your personal qualities or the student's personal qualities align with this. Now, for lots of people, it's quite difficult to get work experience. So it's not essential, certainly not in terms of what we think, Brunel University, that our applicants all get work experience within a hospital or medical setting. While it could be beneficial, of course, we understand that it's not possible for everybody to get this. So in a personal statement, if you don't have the experience, you could just say an experience you've had sort of indirectly. Maybe you had to go to a hospital for a reason. Maybe you visited a loved one or a member of family there, and the experience you had of going to the doctor, whatever it is, that would, I think, certainly tick that box. So if there isn't work experience, don't panic. In terms of references, well, again, this is important. We need it. We need to see it. It needs to be reasonably thorough and recent, certainly from somebody that's known them within 6 months. So in terms of most of our applicants coming through, that will be a teacher from their current school. And we'd like to see predicted grades in that, if possible. And the UCAT. The UCAT is treated, well, I think in fact it's given the heaviest weight here at Brunel. So once you pass our minimum academic criteria, that's for the central admissions team. They check that, they're making sure it's all there. Once we know that's in place, your application comes over to us at the medical school. At this point, we're really only looking at UCAT or GAMSAT. So I tell everyone that asks, practice, practice, practice. And there are lots and lots of online resources. So just Google UCAT and just do everything you possibly can online. We have some extra guidance and things on our website too. A pointer would be, I would say, if you can aim to get above 2,500, then you're on track. Now, this will depend year on year, depend on the cohort of applicants we receive, but I'd say above 2,500, you've got a better chance. That's a good inside tip there. Okay, next. So yeah, so about the UCAT, if you don't know anything about it, it is the University Clinical Aptitude Test. So it's a 2-hour test that can be taken within Pearson VUE test centres, and it can only be taken once a year. It's slightly tricky. You can then take it the following year. It's not just once ever, but it has to be taken the year prior to applying to medical school. So applications to join this have already opened. They're ongoing now. So anybody that's thinking of applying to join us in September 2025 should register and get their appointment at a Pearson VUE test centre so they can take that. Something important to note, it does cost money. So for some people, there is a UCAT bursary, and this supports students on free school meals and other disadvantaged backgrounds. So it's really important, check that out before you apply, just in case you meet the criteria. So as I said previously, applicants are ranked by this score, and it's really, really important. That would be the number one thing I would tell anybody that's applying to Brunel: work on your UCAT. Right, next slide. So if you're invited to interview, the interview format is a multiple mini interview. So these are 6 scenario-based mini interviews, and they each last about 5 minutes with a different assessor. So you'll sort of sit there like a speed date, an online speed dating, and you'll go through and see 6 different assessors. They will show you a scenario. You've got 2 minutes to read that scenario. You can make notes, and then you've got 5 minutes to give your opinion, discuss, and you'll be given a mark for your performance in each of these stations, and your aggregate score is then looked at. And if you reach a certain threshold, you'll then be made an offer. If you come below that threshold or a certain threshold, unfortunately, the application will be rejected. If you sit somewhere in the middle, you'll be placed on our waiting list. So it's difficult to prepare for an MMI because it's live, it's happening right there, and you don't really know what you're going to be asked. However, if you go online, there are repetitions in the kind of things you will see. So you might be asked about something to do with healthcare, a current topic in healthcare, or your ability to analyze data, that kind of thing. So if you go online, look at our website, we've got a good video that talks you through the process. Yes, if you don't get invited to interview, unfortunately, you won't be admitted. So all offers are only made after interview. Thank you. So you might be pleased to know, as well as the Student Finance England and other loans that you can apply for, medical students are eligible for an NHS bursary. So this is only available on our 5-year course. It would only be available in the last year, so the 5th year of the course. And this is only open to people that were ordinarily UK based the date they started their course. So if you're eligible, you'll receive a non-means tested bursary of £1,000. Tested bursary. This will be assessed along, like Student Finance England, for example. So if you're in a London university, like Brunel, you can get a maximum of 3,191 per year. If you're outside London, 2,643. Or if you're living with your parents, you'd get a maximum of 2,207. And what's pretty good here, helps your debt certainly afterwards, is that they would cover the last year, that 5th year of your tuition fee contributions. That's pretty good to know. Yes, so if you liked what you saw there, and hopefully your students will, you'll apply to us for September 2025. So applications to join us then will open in September. While we don't technically have a sort of final or cut-off date for our applications, we do really recommend that you get them in early. So if you could get them in mid-October, which is the usual time medical schools close their UCAS applications, that would be great. So yes, UCAS. UCAS is the only option, certainly for our home and UK students. You'd need to apply through UCAS. And if you have any further questions, you can contact outside of this session. You can contact me directly on this email address that you're seeing now. You can give us a call. We're really, really quick to get back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Claire. So as you can imagine, as a relatively new medical school, we work very hard to recruit students through our admissions and our marketing processes. But then once we have the students, it's important that they're well supported and integrated into the school. So I'll just share what we do here. But firstly, I'll introduce myself. So my name is Chinadu. I'm one of the lecturers here in Brunel Medical School. I'm also a TBL facilitator and the academic lead for widening participation. So the first point of contact when it comes to student support is the student support and wellbeing team. And through this team, we have many activities from support in terms of mental health and well-being, opportunities for students to do art and, interact with a dog, pet a dog, things to feed into their mental health, as well as other supportive schemes such as counselling, reasonable adjustment support with their studying. On a much larger scale, we have the house system. Think of Harry Potter, and these houses stem from inspiring clinicians who have made a significant impact in the medical landscape. And as you saw from Chris's slides earlier on in the talk, with the house system, we have many activities from house meetings to sports day to talent shows. And it exists to create a sense of community among students, a sense of belonging, and also for students to interact with each other and members of staff in an informal manner. And we also have the academic and strategic coaching. So this is actually led by house tutors or personal tutors, and they feed into students' reflection on their academic performance and just supporting students in evolving as learners. And they have to complete various forms, their student development plan and self-assessment plan. So students constantly engage in the process of self-reflection as well as receiving feedback from their personal tutors. And any student that does need that extra bit of study support, that's where the strategic study coaching comes in. Now, something that we also have incorporated is the buddy system. As you can imagine, starting a new medical school can be a bit daunting, a little bit scary. And so what we implement is second years supporting the incoming first years. So having someone who's already gone down your path to share their pearls of wisdom and to talk to about any fears or concerns that you have. And there's that knowledge exchange going on in the buddy system. We have the Student Executive Committee and Student Wellbeing Committee, and this is an opportunity to hear from the student body. We have two assigned student reps who are able to speak on behalf of their peers about any issues going on with the course material or the learning experience, and it helps us to get feedback throughout the year and constantly ensure we're providing the best quality education and experience for our students. At the bottom here, we have the WAM group. WAM stands for Widening Access in Medicine. This group essentially is an opportunity to inspire the next generation of medics. They go out into colleges and engage students from WP backgrounds, and they can also incorporate students from widening access backgrounds themselves. So it creates a sense of community whilst also paving a path for the incoming students. And finally, the university and the school has support packages for students from widening participation backgrounds. This includes the bursaries for students from care leaver backgrounds or those estranged from their parents. But I'll hand over to my colleague, Debbie, who may have something to add from the student support and wellbeing side. Thank you.
Thank you for that. So I'm Debbie Dyson and I'm the Student Support and Wellbeing Manager at Brunel. As Chinadu has said, we support students in the medical school and will support them through application stage all the way through to alumni stage. So if there is support that is needed for reasonable adjustments within the MMIs, or whether a student might be a little bit homesick, they need to look after their well-being, or they have mental health condition, a disability, a medical condition, or just needs to talk because they need someone there to support them, we are there for them to access. We have an open door policy, so we're there from 9 till 5, Monday to Friday, and we have outside supports that they're able to access when the university is closed. So we look after the students all the way through, ready to support them in any needs they might have. And we also work really closely with the house tutors to look after them throughout.
Great, thank you. Right, that's all of our slides. So now's the chance to type away if you've got any questions, to put them in the Q&A. That was really helpful and really insightful. While people are typing their questions in, I had some questions around how to help students stand out. So you said about the UCAT. I wondered if there's any other tips for preparing students for the UCAT that you might have.
Other than there's a great deal of online support. So there, for example, I even tried a UCAT test myself. So you can do plenty of mock tests. I think that's probably the best way to prepare, just practicing. But it's also about kind of thinking about your mindset as well. And I think actually taking the practice tests will sort of illuminate the things that perhaps I hadn't really thought that that would be relevant, or, oh, actually, maybe I wouldn't normally think of it that way. And you could use that as then potentially a pathway to figure out other things about yourself, or even as a means to include certain things in your personal statement. So the UCAT is quite a broad test, and it's 2 hours long, it's quite extensive. So I guess stamina during something like that can be important. But of course, those that are taking their exams at the moment are going to be very used to that. It's difficult because obviously we don't at this stage get to meet anybody. Like I can't talk to them, and I don't see their personal statements. So I don't get that personal touch at the UCAT stage. Really, all I'm looking for is that UCAT score. So the more you can practice, the better prepared you'll be. It's when we meet you at the MMI, then we can see what you've been like.
And also to add to that, when practicing the UCAT, definitely try to mimic test conditions. Try to do it under time conditions just so you have that sense of working under pressure, because I think sometimes that's where students can fall short, where they panic or they freeze, which we've all been through. But if you try to mimic those test conditions at home, that will definitely prepare you for the day, in addition to what Claire said.
Thanks, Cindy.
Great. So we've had a question about applying for September 24. Are we still accepting any applications, or are they closed for 24?
It's pretty much closed. We're certainly closed for any home applications. International, we are still open, but I don't know what your fee status is. So if you're a home student, then unfortunately we are closed for September 2024.
Okay. And then a question about timetabling. How many days per week is timetabled study? What does a week look like for our medical students?
It's pretty full, actually. Trinity might be able to answer this a bit better. I'm not sure, but it's certainly every day of the week. So you'd need to be on campus every day of the week, and Wednesday afternoons are a free period that you can do some of the fun things that you'd like to do to just take your mind off some of the study. But yeah, it's intense. And we also have longer terms, so that's something to be prepared for.
And within the timetable, we have white space available for students to revise and look over things ready to prep for TBLs, etc. With that Wednesday afternoon, it is our sports afternoon. So it's when societies have football matches, netball games, basketballs, etc. So that's why it's a protected space for students.
So we've had a question about what is the unique selling point of the medical program at Brunel? What makes it different to other medical schools?
I can probably cover that. I mean, there are quite a few. Some I already covered, but just to echo myself, I think TBL being the main method of teaching is certainly unique to us. And speaking to the students, the vast majority of them absolutely love it compared to other teaching methods. So TBL is one. We actually have a TBL video again on our website if you want to have a more in-depth look at that. I think the fact that we have a very modern and up-to-date MBBS curriculum that we built ourselves from scratch, obviously alongside the GMC, General Medical Council, is a huge selling point for us. Some medical schools would buy a sort of an off-the-shelf curriculum for a lot of money, which is sort of a one-size-fits-all approach. Ours is very much not like that. Ours is up-to-date and ready for the modern world. We spoke about being so the university itself is diverse. I would imagine close to 170 nationalities on campus. At the medical school, we have over 50 nationalities on campus, which is self-proclaimed at this stage, but probably I'd say the most diverse medical school in the UK so far. And finally, the state-of-the-art teaching facilities that we have are amazing. They're still shiny and new, especially the anatomy suite. And this is where we house, and something I didn't mention, we don't use sort of old-fashioned cadavers. We used plastinated specimens, human specimens, to teach anatomy, again, which our students loved, which is very much more intricate to cadavers. They don't have that sort of the smell that cadavers have, and they can be used again and again and again, unlike cadavers. And we invested a lot, millions of pounds in these specimens. So that is definitely one of the highlights of the school.
Yeah, and I'd also to add to what Chris said, in terms of the TBL teaching in the classroom, we try and promote team teaching. So we have a scientist, a clinician, and a TBL facilitator in the room. And so students get to see that translation of knowledge from bench to bedside and see how the scientific concepts they're learning in biochemistry, cell biology translates to clinical symptoms and diagnosis. So that's a really powerful teaching tool. But we also have the student selected component projects at the end of year 2, which are like mini research projects that cover a range of themes, from clinical audits to lab projects, working in psychology, science animation, and just exposing students at an early stage to research questions, thinking critically. Some have even led to publications and so much more. So just there's that too.
We had a question about the next open day, so that's something that I can answer. We've got our next full open day is the 26th of October, where you can get a talk from some of the people here about the medical school, and that also includes a tour of the medical facilities. And I believe it will show a demonstration of taking blood and the CPR. Is that still right, Chris? That'll be included in the October open day.
Yeah, there's certainly be some demonstrations and some other ones as well.
Lovely. Good chance to meet students. We have the MedSoc there as well at the next open day. But if people aren't available on the 26th of October, we have campus tours running throughout the week as well. So students could always book a campus tour and see the space. But you don't really get the full exposure of all of the facilities in the medical school and all the students. So an open day really is the best chance to see all of it in one go. They're all the main questions that we've had through. Any last thoughts from speakers? Anything you think we should highlight?
No, I think we've it covers most of it.
Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Lovely. Well, thanks so much, everybody, for joining us. We will share this recording with everybody who's joined, and then we'll make it available through various channels for lots of people afterwards. It's been really helpful to run through this. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks,
Enjoy
everyone.
the rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.